All right, welcome back to the channel. Tucker on Twitter, episode 7. We're just doing them in order, keeping them on the playlist. And I'm procrastinating from getting in my comments because, half the time I don't know how to deal with actual artists showing up on the channel and saying something, and I want to over-explain everything that's an issue, and So we're starting here for today. It's easier.
Hey, it's Tucker Carlson. You may have found yourself wondering recently, as the world slides closer to nuclear annihilation than any time in human history, why exactly are we at war with Russia? It seems like there's a pretty significant downside to this particular foreign policy decision, starting with economic collapse and ending potentially with extinction. So is there a good reason we're doing it? So many innocent young people have been killed. So many hundreds of billions of dollars have been wasted, some of them from the U.S. Treasury. So what's the point? Are we really doing this so the Biden family can repay its debts to the oligarchs who finance their beach house in Rehoboth? Are we doing it so our government can continue to lie about its illicit biolabs in Eastern Europe? So that flabby losers like Toria Nuland and Tony Blinken can feel like they're doing something important with their sad, empty lives? Really? Honestly, there's got to be a better reason for waging this, the most pointless war of all. What is it? Well, thankfully, we have an answer. The war against Russia, ladies and gentlemen, the war against Putin and for Ukraine is in fact a war for democracy. Watch and recall the motive.
The President has said many times we're focused on what we can do to support Ukraine's effort to fight for their democracy.
Democracy must prevail. The Ukrainian people are fighting the fight for their democracy, and in doing so, for ours as well.
Assisting and helping Ukraine win this fight for democracy and freedom.
And of course, Ukrainian President Zelensky understands that what's at stake in Ukraine is bigger than just his nation. It is literally a battle for freedom and democracy themselves.
They are showing the world what an existential fight for democracy looks like.
President Zelensky and the Ukrainians have changed the course of history for the better, and we unequivocally are with the Ukrainian people in their fight to remain a sovereign democracy.
Unequivocally with the Ukrainian people to remain a democracy. It's a bipartisan view. Democracy must prevail. You just heard noted democracy expert Nancy Pelosi say, the daughter of the mobbed-up mayor of Baltimore. As Pelosi puts it, the Ukrainian people are fighting the fight for their democracy and for ours as well. That's right, for ours as well. Without Ukrainian democracy, in other words, we can have no democracy here. If the Ukrainians aren't free, neither are we. We must make sure they can vote in Kiev so we can continue to vote in Kansas City. It's really that simple. And yet tonight, we regret to tell you that we have a problem. It looks like they're not going to be able to vote in Kiev anymore. And no, for once.
Well, it's funny because after that little clip of all them other clips, it reminds me of all the mainstream AP talking points where you can watch a video, a supercut video of 30 different newscasters saying the same exact thing. Now, I'm not on either side of the conflict because I just want humanity and humans and people to stop killing each other, blah, blah, blah. They should all turn around and go after like the military industrial complex or something. I mean, that's, the planet's enemy, obviously. In my personal opinion only, of course, but I'm not the only one saying that. But democracy, I hear that a lot, but then I'm just getting through where a small percentage of the population is making almost all the decisions for the past month. Now, that's cool. You do you. I don't really care. I might not be into it, but I don't condemn it. At the same time, I wonder what's democratic about co-opting everything for a certain tiny fringe group that doesn't represent the majority of the population at all. Is that democracy? Is that what they call that? And then when the system takes the side and the government like fucks around with the media to make decisions and deceive us. What do they call that? Isn't there a name for that? Weird. I don't think the name's, it starts with an F. I can't remember. But I know it's not democracy.
And no, for once, it's not Putin's fault. Democracy in Ukraine seems to be suspended by the world's foremost democracy advocate himself, Field Marshal Zelensky. Watch this.
Чи будуть в Україні наступного року вибори?
Це ж питання глобальне. І якщо ми переможемо, то будуть. Значить, не буде військового часу, не буде війни. А вибори повинні проходити у мирний час, коли немає згідно законодавства.
So when you have an election, well, he says if we win, we'll let people vote. Otherwise, no. You vote when we feel like it, because ultimately we're completely in charge and make all the rules. Your job is to obey or be punished. That's our version of self-government. Self means me. I'm the government. Now, that's not just any autocrat. That's our chief ally in the war for democracy. This is the guy who just announced he's likely to cancel next year's elections. So you've got to wonder what the Biden administration thinks of this. We can't possibly continue to support Zelensky, that guy, after he said that, can we? Because in a clip less than 30 seconds long, he just blew up our entire rationale for supporting his side in the war. So we can't support him. Oh, of course we can. And we will. Here's Joe Biden from yesterday reaffirming America's unequivocal support for Ukraine.
No matter what happened in Russia, we, the United States, will continue to support Ukraine's defense and its sovereignty and its territorial integrity.
So to recap, we are currently fighting a war for democracy on behalf of a leader who just casually announced he's happy to end democracy, and our democracy-supporting leaders have no problem with that. In fact, they're strongly for it. Shocked? You shouldn't be. Of course they're for it. You should have seen this coming. Wars for democracy always cancel democracy in the process. That's why our leaders love them. And they all do it, even the virtuous leaders. Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus. The British government under Winston Churchill threw an entire opposition party into prison and let them rot for the duration, in some cases with their families. So in a war for democracy, you can do anything. Imagine what a man might do who has fewer principles. If that man, say, ran Ukraine, he might seize churches, arrest priests, ban all criticism of himself, disappear his political opponents.
And to be fair, I can play both sides of this for a minute because I'm not totally a sounding board just for these ideas. I hear on the church thing they claim there was hiding resistance fighters. So, I mean, if that's the narrative that they're saying, I'm not saying I agree or disagree. What I'm saying is I heard it wasn't as cut and dried as going after churches. But at the same time, I also have been listening to the other side, the evil bad guy side on this whole deal. And it doesn't sound like I don't know what to believe anymore. I don't. I know that we should talk about it more and less submarine talk and more where's all the money going, right? Less 2 weeks of golden ticket hype, rage clicks, and what are we, some days I wonder what the hell, what do we go to work for? Now, it's I got to take care of my family and my own shit, but man, it seems stupid. Everything, so much falling apart, but we just keep funding this and funding this and funding this.
Priests ban all criticism of himself, disappear his political opponents. And that's happening. Just last month, Zelensky threw a man called Gonzalo Lira into prison indefinitely for the crime of daring to write about the Ukrainian government in unflattering ways. Now, what's interesting, what separates this from other such cases, is that Lira is an American citizen. So Joe Biden, who is quite a bit of SWAT, as they say in Ukraine, could have freed Gonzalo Lira within hours. But he didn't. He didn't want to. He didn't say a word about it. He remains in prison tonight. So that makes you wonder, what's the real motive here?
Well, yeah, but not really, because we can't be critical here. You watch right now, I mean, there's so many content creators jumping ship. And, I am assuming, my honey lets me know that I should probably start working on the Rumble channel now and not just wait till the end. But oh yeah, I mean, right now you can't even talk about a candidate who's going to run for president without risking them coming after your channel because, ooh, that's not a talking point we're allowed to have. Even though, just like on the last episode of Tucker, it turns out we don't have to agree, but we could have the discussion, right? To say, if I dislike the military-industrial complex, I definitely big pharmacon I don't trust either. At the same time, I respect people who, are trying to help other people, Robert. I do. It's the wielding it as a control mechanism I'm worried about, right? Not anybody who wants to help someone get better. They're two different discussions. They just are, right? This is I'm 100% for a country doctor who comes and delivers your baby for, a couple bushels of apples. I'm tired of, indoctrinated medical students telling me how every decision I've made is somehow wrong, but here, take this pill, you'll be better. Right? It don't make no sense to me. And I think either of it, we should be globally turning our attention on the powers that want to be and start questioning what the hell is this? We're all supposed to just sit back and tolerate what the global leaders want? It seems like there's enough of us to contradict those orders.
He remains in prison tonight. So that makes you wonder, what's the real motive here? When normal people see war, they see death and destruction, sadness and suffering. But that's not what demagogues see. They understand it differently. They know that war means power, mostly for them. During wartime, everything they do can be justified. War is the gravest of all emergencies. Imagine the COVID lockdowns times 1,000 plus drones. Once war breaks out, politicians become gods with the power of life and death. So in a peaceful democracy, you have to debate your political opponents in public, and that's tiresome. But in a war for democracy, you can just throw them in jail or have them executed. You can see that many in Washington are looking forward to that moment. And that may be why they so fervently support Joe Biden, even many Republicans, against a potential opponent, the only opponent who opposes the war in Ukraine. If you were to end the war, their power would evaporate. Last week, a whistleblower produced WhatsApp messages from Hunter Biden, proving that at the very least, his father knew about his influence peddling businesses abroad and probably participated in them. Quote, "I'm sitting here with my father," Hunter Biden wrote to his Chinese partners demanding money.
Oh, yeah. To be fair, I kind of watched that go on because on Twitter, it was just fun. You got to watch the attack on Jean-Pierre, whatever. I'm sure she's a very nice lady. Right. But you got to see that. And then I guess, I'm not positive, but I hear that clip has sort of been removed from the White House version of what happened. And then someone else has been out as spokesperson. Like, I think they finally ran her through the ringer. Like, it turns out they would have to give another answer than "I'm proud of my crackhead son." "I'm proud of my crackhead son" really doesn't start addressing what's going on. And if this one-sided shit show charade is going to keep going on, I mean, I can't be the only person livid about this shit. I can't be. Something going to have to give eventually.
Quote, "I'm sitting here with my father," Hunter Biden wrote to his Chinese partners demanding money. As much as anything reported about the Bidens over the last several years, this was the smoking gun. There it is, right there in the message. That would have been enough to cripple a normal president. It would have been more than enough to keep a normal president from running for office again. But it had virtually no effect on Joe Biden. Most media outlets ignored it completely or tried to spin Biden's relationship with his son as some kind of moral victory. Quote, "The real meaning of the Hunter Biden saga, as I see it," wrote Nick Kristof of the New York Times, "isn't about presidential corruption, but is about how widespread addiction is and about how a determined parent with
Well, yeah, but only... I don't actually agree with the conservative side on this all. I'm sure that I'm much more in the middle, but that's some balls to write a story like that when you totally support drug using survival kit vending machines on the street, that the mass fentanyl deaths come on. I mean, are we really to this point that the same group that endorses all that shit for our demise can tell you, oh, it's a big problem too? Well, fucking ain't right, it's a big problem. There's one group that supports, and I'm pro-weed. I'm not, but damn. Can we really be fishing on a fucking corner, dying from hard drugs all day? I don't know if I think they're two different discussions. And it just, it's kind of heartbreaking sometimes when you think about the hypocrisy everywhere. Someone just yelled at the house again. They like yelling at the house.
Conditional love can sometimes reel a child back. He actually wrote that. And if you doubt it, you should know that view was common. Here's the take from ABC.
The Hunter Biden story, the scandal, the this, the that, it's also the story of a father's love. And Joe Biden has never and will never give up on his son Hunter.
So she seems like she's going to cry there. Did the people on The View not know the laptop is real and all the other disgusting stuff that the mainstream doesn't have the balls to talk about yet is real too? Is this the world we live in that can literally be considered? So the laptop just real, right? Whether you like it or not. That goofball just left his own privacy. He wanted to take his family down, in my personal opinion, but whatever. Is how many, man, just wag the dog, crocodile tear bullshit. Are there that many stupid fucking people that believe this kind of shit? Legitimate question.
And will never treat him lesser than. And so he is a father first. Take it or leave it.
So a whistleblower produces a text message showing that Joe Biden was in the room with his son when his son was selling influence to an enemy power, the Chinese government. And ABC's take on it, Joe Biden is a father first. Take it or leave it. What accounts for a response like that?
Because there's still people who think the Russiagate hoaxes were real. And it doesn't matter how much proof, how many inquiries, how much documentation. It doesn't matter because they want them to be real. They're real for their bubble, right? For their echo chamber, all of that stuff is real, right? The peeing prostitutes, all of that is real, even though it's not. But of course, to the cult, it's got to be real because you worship those ideas. Until the guy is on the post frying, until you get to burn your witches, not satisfied. But that's a bad analogy because the same people who hate that guy love witches. So it's all weird. I don't actually know if there's good guys in the game anymore.
Well, that's the way you talk when you've got nothing to fear from an upcoming presidential election. You don't even bother to think of an excuse for your candidate because you don't need to. Your country has electronic voting machines. Joe Biden got 81,282,916 votes.
Hey, every one of you who cast one of them votes, it's all your fault we're here. Just so you know. If that's true, man, there was a lot of people misunderstood at what they were voting for, huh? Oh, I didn't like bad tweets. I don't buy none of that shit, and turns out we can actually say that again, so fuck it. I can't believe there's just so many stupid fucking people. It's been nothing but a downhill slide ever since, and I'm pretty positive. I'm on the side of the mule story. I'm on the side of, corrupt Arizona. I'm on the side of that. It doesn't look Looks like we've been duped.
2020, and you're pretty sure he can do it again. In fact, you know he can. You're not worried.
No.
But actually, they should be a little worried. The people who control Joe Biden, Susan Rice, and the rest know they can continue to run our government, writing the press releases, formulating the policies, and they can do it effectively forever, as long as Joe Biden gets dressed in the morning. And of course, that's their strong preference. These are fervent opponents of change. But the one thing these people cannot control is aging. Joe Biden is old. He's 80 now. He will be 85 at the end of the next term. People imagine that old age is a long, predictable progression from acuity to permanent unconsciousness. But often that's not at all how it actually works. When old people start to slide, they tend to slide fast. Joe Biden has begun that descent. Here he was yesterday.
And here's what she wrote to me, and I quote, "You can imagine my joy. She called them right away, and the next day they sent someone out to survey her yard. As Beth wrote, this is the best thing that's happened to rural America since the Rural Electrification Act brought electricity to farms in the 30s and 40s. End of quote.
End of quote. You weren't supposed to hear that. Joe Biden read the stage directions.
Our fucking president is the Anchorman movie brought to life. I am not the first one to notice that for sure.
Out loud. That's like eating the garnish that comes with your entree. You're supposed to know not to do that. Joe Biden no longer does. In a year or two, he will be gone completely, and there will be no hiding it. At that point, the Democratic Party will face a secession problem. If Joe Biden is reelected next year and then forced to leave office during his term due to disability or death, that means Kamala Harris will become president of the United States. And nobody wants that, not even her husband. In real life, nobody likes Kamala Harris. That's not an attack on her. In fact, it's possible to feel pity for someone who's so universally reviled. It is instead an observation of unchanging physical reality like gravity or photosynthesis. Nobody wants Kamala Harris to be president. No one will benefit if she becomes.
Just anybody pro out there, I shouldn't have them. I don't think I have too many people that are 100% on the side of everything going on now. But let's say you are, and you respect the vice president. Can you give links to a single good photo op or moment she's had? I remember how they totally ignored the last one, and I wonder what we could have got if we would have. Weird. I'm just curious. Is there any good opportunity where it's not the cackling, like 3 sheets to the wind conversation? I'm just curious. I don't know. Maybe there is.
President. So logic suggests there's going to be a change. It's going to have to be somebody else. And whoever that person is going to have to enter the race soon, before the election, after Biden drops out. Who could that person be? We don't know, obviously. This is all just guessing. But we do know whoever that is will have to have 2 essential criteria. He'll have to be as shallow, ruthless, and transactional as Joe Biden is, and he'll need to have flattery skills that are so polished and advanced they'd be considered superior even in the Saudi royal court. And there's only one man in modern America who fits that description: Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, and perhaps not coincidentally, Joe Biden's new closest friend. I am here, Mr. President, Newsom told Biden at an event the two did together last week. I am here as a proud American, as a proud Californian, mesmerized by not just your faith and your devotion to this country and the world we're trying to build, but by your...
See if that's a direct quote. There's my problem. I am not positive the majority of people asked any of these a-holes to build a world for them. And you can argue. You could say, I want a better world. Well, yeah, all of us do. But I don't think this group, anybody related to like the WEF, the World Health Organization, or any globalist NGO, I don't think that's who we'd vote in. I don't think that's who we would elect. It's funny how they all come out of the NGO sector and out of private money. It's almost like when they brag about infiltrating world governments, they weren't mincing words. Weird.
Results, by your action, by your passion, by your capacity to deliver. I am mesmerized by you, Joe Biden. Imagine saying that as a compliment. You couldn't do it. Few human beings could do it, but Gavin Newsom had no problem at all. Those words rolled right off his forked tongue. He never stopped smiling. So if you're looking for the leader of the coup, there he is right there.
Rollen's been calling it a coup for years now. And I said it many times on the channel. So, sorry, I'm trying to look through a ring light. It's tough. I think we'll go with that. Yeah, weird. See the lights right over there. But sometimes you can't see through it. And, you know, I'm my own producer, so it becomes a chore sometimes. I actually, as always, I enjoyed it. It's no disrespect to anybody out there. I'm not saying Tucker's 100% right, wrong, or nothing. But I'm much happier living in a world where we can have these conversations and not have to go, I'm afraid to speak. If I don't do the current thing, I'm no good. Well, that's just not true. We all have values. We all have shortcomings. None of it's supposed to put yourself on a pedestal above anybody else. We can now see who's on the pedestals. Maybe it's time to address that first, not each other and our pet peeve differences. Because in the end, I'm pretty sure most people will be happy. Yeah, I think most people actually, there's proof everywhere that people can actually live and function. Gets complicated, doesn't it? Doesn't it? There's episode 7 done. Later.